Hello, and welcome back to the Existence is Weird variety TV show. Here you are at my desk, which I shall clean minimally as the first step. Today, what I've got for you is going to be a little bit of a surprise for even me. I wasn't sure I was going to do this. It was very spur of the moment. But that seems to be a trending pattern here. I purchased these from Journeys. That's what the stickers were. I needed a color that went along with the t-shirt that I haven't quite found anything to go well with. I didn't want to do black pants and also black shoes, so I went and found something with a little more color. But with that said, I was quite attached to the idea of a checkered pattern I saw on a different pair. So, here I'll be putting them right there along the sole. Alright, and before we get really started, let's take care of a very important step and apply the stickers to places that I think they'll be quite iconic. I hope for this to be a regular of the variety TV series, where I often change the genre, the style, and the content, but I hope to keep the quality up to par. Alright, now finally on to the actual first step, which is mapping. I'm going to measure the entire sole, decide something round about the center, because the eye won't be able to tell the exact measurement. I'm sure I'm not 100% there. I'm going to draw my lines out, make some squares, figure out exactly what I want to do. And right about here, I'm realizing that the lines aren't parallel.
That's off.
So I'll give up and go directly to masking. This is some really cool Japanese newspaper that I bought a lens for this camera, my only telephoto lens currently in my collection, and I opened it on the bus on my way to work one day a couple of months ago, and it was wrapped in this. It was quite wonderful to know that the person sending this to me wasn't just a corporation or a company. This is a person who just had this lying around and thought this would be a good way to get rid of it. I am glad to say it is being put to excellent use. By chance, if you're out there watching a video about a guy customizing shoes, and you happen to remember sending off a 75 to 300 millimeter Canon EF telephoto lens, I'm the guy. Here, a very important detail that you won't see on film is that I specifically spared no expense, including time and patience, to making sure that all of the edges and the corners were covered. Each of these pieces of rubber has its own thickness, of course, and when it lays on top of each other, they create the rounded edges, and I really wanted my checkered pattern to look like they checkered it before the rubber was put together to make the shoe.
This one, ready design, here's my north of the border. That didn't work. Well, I gotta do it again.
I've gone back to the previous step that I skipped now. I am to correct all of the accidents I've done before. I even made an effort to correct that one parallel line that wasn't parallel before. Here I prove that I can count to more than 10, though not without struggle, I must admit. And in the end, it even turned out that I didn't need that line to be parallel anyway, because that edge of the paper wasn't long enough to account for the entire length of the sole that I'll be checkering. And now, right here, you'll watch the biggest mistake of this entire project, which I count that as a pretty good thing. For this to be the biggest mistake, I knew the moment that I was putting the tape down that the tape would stick to the paper and it wouldn't again stick to the shoe. I worked very hard to salvage this attempt and see if I can make it work anyway.
Okay, I'm not this is a good hand, alright?
Which involves using other tape to stick that tape down and meticulously cut out the squares, which very much requires a still hand, and here you can watch me giving up on it. It's the second and final thing that I completely abandoned during the video. So, on to attempt 2. I've stuck down the piece of tape directly onto the shoe. That way I have even adhesion, and when I paint down, the paint will not go underneath of the tape, is what I was realizing what would happen if I stuck with the previous attempt. The important thing about having drawn on the paper first is now I know all of my measurements, and which hash on my ruler is the center of the shoe. So I mark the hash, I freehand sketch the center line all the way down. Once I'm satisfied with the number of hashes that I've got to use as a reference, I follow that hash again and make marks for everywhere there's going to be a split. Now I thought this would be a lot more satisfying, which was detaping every single individual square in which would be colored and not white, but it was quite meticulous and bothersome. But anyway, enough of that for a short while, and on to snack break. Now, that was wonderful. I think I've got a full set of hearts and energy, and I'm gonna work this one through the night. And to make that a reality, I've got to put my desk back together after that gruesome slide away. This was certainly the part of the project that took the most time, is peeling off the individual squares. I originally thought it would take longer to draw the squares or cut them. I ended up finding out cheat codes to do both. But there was no cheat code or way to make faster the peeling process of every square, especially because at random occasions, I wouldn't get the entirety of the tape off. A certain small corner would still be stuck to its original attachment of tape, which required the X-Acto knife and peeling that directly off. Finally, I've got both shoes taped and completed. Every square that is to be removed has been removed. Snack number 2, but this one's actually a snack. I'm just taking some chocolate chips. And here's the reveal. It was already looking incredible. Now, I certainly can't put my foot in that right now as it's all completely masked up, but I couldn't be happier with this result. And this is only halfway done. On to the painting process. This is brand Angelus, unsponsored. That is the Deglazer. I've got to wipe down the surface so that I can pull off the protective coating that they apply. Next, here are my color choices. I've got a dark blue first, which I'm going to mix heavily with this white, and a tiny bit of this wonderful lilac shade. I really hope to get something cohesive and a nice sky blue. Paintbrushes are going to be very important. So I choose 2 with the right size and profile shape, and I should be good. Unfortunately, what I will say is I'm going to have to get some, the stuff that you put to deteriorate solid paint for my smaller brush right here that I'm mixing things with, because this brush is still coated in the paint. It's got a very thick layer on top of the brushes. I've had it sitting in water since the end of this video. It's been a couple of days now. If you suddenly realize that I've changed the shade, it's because, well, I didn't mix enough of the original shade, and when I went back to mix another, I added too much blue, so I had to paint over everything the second time.
Rosie, stop it!
And after that sweet visit from Puppy, I'm back onto things. The detaping process was actually a lot of fun when I actually got to ripping off and being able to see the white and blue checkered. It looks incredible right now. Again, very, very tedious, so nowhere near as satisfying as I thought it would be before I started the project, but certainly satisfying here to watch. Unfortunately, I do not have any cleverly put together audio to make it even more so apologies. And here's where I start to get giddy and excited, because I can really see how well this has come out. And instead of wasting time and detaping the second shoe the same way I did the first, which took honestly forever, I'll just use this clever little turn. And now, my pile of tape. It needs to be taken care of, as well as the newspaper, so that I can finally see what the finished product kind of looks like. But before that happens, I've got to put a sealer on. This specifically isn't a real sealer. This is more of a top coat, a finish to make it look a certain way. I did not have sealer when I was working on this. I will be purchasing sealer for myself if I decide to do this in the future. But honestly, this took a lot of effort and nearly 7 hours just for an almost completely unnoticed effect so far. Very few people have actually realized what I've done with this. And here we're just about complete. In the demasking process, there are a few strips of tape that left behind that nasty little residue. And even though I felt so close to victory, now that I can see what the final project looked like, I had to painstakingly go back and peel off about 14 of these little angry gremlins. And the finishing touch has got to be the comfort. I'm sure, as a lot of you know, Vans don't have a lot of support all the way down through the shoe. I could basically feel the concrete when I was walking, so I decided to get these little guys and help up my foot. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my voice this entire time, but, I gotta say I had a lot of fun making this come to life. And now, to be completely fair, I'm not entirely sure this whole project had the largest effect on the overall appeal from a distance, but I certainly love looking at them a lot more. And now that all is said and done, just one last thing to say. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you again soon. Don't come back if you don't want to. There are no strings attached. And make sure to leave a hateful comment down below. I'll respond to as many as I can. Thanks.